Welcome back to Trucker Talk Radio. Today we're launching something new and long overdue. Justin, I think you'll agree. This is our first episode of Drivers First, a show that's dedicated to the men and women who actually keep the industry moving. And we want to get the series started off the right way with a driver's real story. So, Justin, why don't you go ahead and make the introduction to our audience?
Yeah, so this episode is very personal because today's guest is the very first owner operator that I ever recruited. Dewayne, welcome to the show and thanks for being our first guest for Drivers First. Dewayne, let's go back to the beginning before I actually met you. Where did you grow up? Tell us a little bit about your childhood.
Well, I grew up in a little small town called Kemper County, Mississippi. It's about 30 miles from Meridian. And I had a friend that taught me how to drive a big truck, tractor trailer. And I always wanted to drive one. And that was my motivation to learn how to drive one. Once I did, it was fantastic. I never thought I would be able to drive one because I was kind of small. But hey, it doesn't mean how small you are that you can't drive a tractor trailer. But that was my childhood dream to drive one of those. And I eventually,
You're
to this
small.
day,
How small are you?
I'm about when I started, I was like 137.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was like 137 pounds.
So who raised you? I mean, Justin's gone on and on about you, the last week when we knew we were going to have you on the show. Who raised you and who instilled your work ethic?
Well, my mom raised me, and she was a single parent, and she always hard working, working two jobs. And so once I got old enough to figure out I can able to help her, I was like, you know what, I need to find me something to do to help my mom out. So like I said, I had a friend that he had a paperwood truck, and he the one taught me how to drive, and he came and picked me up every Saturday morning, and we'd go load up the truck, and he taught me how to drive. And I told him I wanted to drive a big truck, and he said, well, I'll teach
you. Yeah. So how old were you when you got your CDL?
I was 21.
So when you look back, what lessons from your childhood that shows up that still you to be in the type of driver that you are? Because there's not a lot of drivers, in my opinion, that go the extra mile that you have always exhibited in the time that we've been together. What brought you to do the extra stuff?
Well, I was always like this. I'd rather go the extra mile to show people that the different things that can be done if you wanted to do it. And by me going that extra mile, I was hoping that it always help someone else to do that extra mile for someone else, because you never know when you need that extra mile to help someone. But it made a difference, and I greatly appreciate going that extra mile just to help someone do it. And being the child that I was coming along growing up, everybody behind me saw that I started driving trucks, motivated them to want to do it. And they were like, who taught you? So I told them, and they was wanting to go to truck driving school. So that made a difference and made me feel like, hey, I got people following me wanting to do stuff now.
So one of the reasons that I talk about you a lot, I've talked about you honestly from the very beginning of our conversations we've had on Trucker Talk about how you've treated customers, how you've treated people in the yards, the guard shacks, to the people working on the docks, and I know from firsthand experience how that's helped me and you get out of binds from running late or trying to get you back home before your clock runs out. One of the fun things that I've spoke about on here a few times, and I'd like for you to kind of tell everybody more in detail, because I think things like this make a huge difference in the interactions that you have, like me and you both been there where we needed you to get reloaded so we could get you back out the next morning. But I talk about all the time where I know firsthand you love barbecuing and cooking, and
yes,
everybody, yeah, and everybody around you. I know you like a Corona every once in a while as well. Same here.
Yeah, that's the weekend.
That's it. But I know you would do a lot of cooking, and I've always laughed and told people, hey, bring somebody a chicken and biscuit in the mornings when you're coming in to pick up. You make somebody happy. They'll remember
Exactly.
that. But you went a step further. You would always keep barbecue with you because you would eat it sometimes on the road, but you knew there were certain people that liked it, and it would get you out of a jam sometimes. But could you talk on that a little bit? Because I think that's a lost art, especially with these new drivers who don't get that, it might cost you a little money to do that, but you make it up so far.
Yes, I mean it always take going that extra step. Make them smile. Say something to make them smile. Give them a coat, but bring them some food or biscuit, like you say. Because I was the kind of driver that I didn't mind. Especially once I got on a dedicated route. Hey, I stop by Hardee's and bring you a biscuit or whatever. Maybe have some barbecue on the truck. You always got to take care of the one that's take care of you. Once you get to knowing your customer each and every day, you're running in and out of that every day. That'll make your load more easier to get delivered and get loaded and get in and out of that facility. You coming in, you're not just a number. You getting known on a first name basis. They know when you come through that gate, you meet the guard, you know who's there. That makes a difference when you do stuff like that for a customer. Even though you going in their facility to get a load, doesn't mean they can have an attitude and not want to load you. But if you go in and take care of them like they taking care of you, everybody be happy.
That's so true. And I've known from talking with you from the days that I don't dispatch you anymore and everything. You still have relationships with a lot of those people, especially at that dedicated place in Meridian, and they don't even work there anymore. That's awesome because you never know when you might run into that person at another facility and you're trying to get in there to get their business. So I do think that's a lost art in trucking of paying it forward, like you said, and taking care of people that you interact who really control your day. I mean, you go in and make somebody
Exactly.
mad. You go in and make them mad. You might sit for a while. You know.
Exactly. You will. I have
Okay.
seen it done.
Moving forward, I know you're a company driver now. I knew, when I was with you, I recruited as an owner operator and you had your own truck. One thing I always did admire you as well is you always kept a second truck as a parts truck. I
Yes, sir.
think that's very smart. Especially with the older model trucks where it's a little bit easier to get that. I know you spoke of that's what you always wanted to do. Did you start out as a company driver and then went to an owner operator? And what made you take the leap to get your own truck?
Well, yes, I started out as a company driver once I first got my CDLs. But, as time went on, I was like, I want to be able to be my own boss as well, even though you still have someone that you have to answer to, regardless of being an owner operator, because at the end of the day, you still have to speak with someone about your freight, about your load. And once I got to having my own truck and seeing, you know, what kind of lifestyle I can have and what kind of income that I can bring home, the revenue, and I wanted to give it a chance. And I did. I saved me some money up, and finally found somewhere I can go purchase me a truck, and I got it. And I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. Don't nothing fail but a try. And that's how I was told. So I stepped out on faith and it worked very well for me, and
Hmm.
didn't have a problem with it. And so I just, I got to talking to other drivers that was older, they always tell me, hey, you ain't doing nothing wrong, but you got to give it a chance. If you don't try it, you'll never know. So, and I tried it and I enjoyed it. Yeah, you're going to have some good days and bad days in it. You know, every day is not going to be where you're going to make X amount of money because you got to put it back into the truck.
Dwayne, talk about that for a minute, how important it is to take care of your truck, especially if you're an owner operator, but even I'm sure you take care of your truck as a company driver. Talk about how important that is because so many guys don't know anything about their truck. They just go there to drive and then that's it. They don't know what it is to maintain the truck. How much time can that save you? How much money can that save you? You don't have to be a certified mechanic by any means, I don't think, but just
No, you don't
knowing
have
like how to keep your truck in good shape.
yeah, the basic of maintenance of your truck is the crucial most important of that truck. Make sure you get it serviced, oil changed, all of that. By you doing that truck will take care of your truck, it'll take care of you. Just because you go out here and make $8,000-9,000 a week doesn't mean you go home and take that $8,000 and take your wife out and go buy her a new Rolls Royce or whatever she wants. But you got to put some of that money back for your truck as I used to do, I put back X amount of dollars a week in a maintenance account. And by me doing that, whenever my truck needed maintenance or breakdown, I had money put back. But you just can't take all of that money and just put it up and just spend it, because it's gonna come to a day where your truck gonna need more than it's gonna cost you. And if you ain't got it put back and put up, you're gonna be out of business. You can get out of business quicker than you went in business because you hadn't saved any income revenue up for your truck.
The carrier you're running under right now, how long have you been working for them?
I've been with them right at 4 years.
So talk about that. I mean, driver turnover has never been higher. Everybody thinks the grass is greener. Justin and I talked to so many guys that, have had 6 or 7 jobs in the last year. And they're always, in most cases, they're always blaming somebody else. And at a certain point, you got to look in the mirror, right? And say, what do I need to do differently? Talk about like how your success may be due, in large part to you staying committed to a carrier and, building a foundation with that carrier and showing them that you can be counted on, you can be relied on, and therefore, you receive, decent compensation. They take care of you a little bit better. Talk about that, being committed to a carrier for as long as you have.
For me, I'm happy where I'm at. I mean, if family owned. We're not, it's not, I'm home daily, off on the weekends, optional if I want to work weekends. And if you can find you a nice company job and get with it and stick with it, I promise you, in the long haul, it's going to pay it off for you.
Would like to get your opinion. I don't think me and you have spoken about this through our conversations over the phone, but a lot's going on right now with the language barrier, the safety of the roads with these illegal drivers, non-domicile CDLs. From a trucker's position of that, you're having to compete per se, you're having to share the roads, the docks. How do you feel about it? Like, not, you don't have to so much be on a professional, hey, I stand this way, but like for a safety position, that you would be in, as another driver on the road, or, with your family being on the road, or even taking away business from the company that you work with.
Mm-hmm. Well, I understand the safety of it, and everybody, they trying to make sure the highway is safe and everybody is legally operating the vehicle like they're supposed to and reading the signs as they should. But today's driving, it has changed. I can say that because I've been driving for over 30 something years now, and it's not like it used to be. I mean, me, I don't depend on that GPS. So that GPS will have you somewhere in the graveyard, and you think you had at a stop.
Very true.
I mean,
Exactly right.
I seen it happen. Matter of fact, like I can say yesterday back home, we have a low maintenance railroad crossing, and it tells us, 13.1 on the average, low trucks. And it was a truck on that highway yesterday. And when I got up under the underpass to go past him, it was one of the foreigners, and he had to bag up into a graveyard, which he couldn't because it was a 2-lane. And they finally got the highway patrol down there. I don't know they wrote him a ticket or whatever, but I'm quite sure because they said no trucks. But I stopped and asked, I said, man, how you end up on this highway? And he couldn't talk much English. And I was like, okay. And he ended up pointing at the GPS. He was following that GPS. And it wasn't good. And I don't know how he ended up over there, but yeah, it goes back, you got to be able to read these signs nowadays. And, and if you can't read them, don't take a chance you thinking you on the right street and you're not. It's not right for them to be on the road and kill somebody and they're at fault and because they can't read the sign.
Well, and I'm curious how they're even being taught to drive. I mean, these trucking schools, I mean, I would imagine a lot of them don't speak necessarily the language that these drivers speak. So how are they being taught? How are they learning
That
how to operate a commercial motor vehicle?
vehicle, exactly. That's what
You
I'm
know,
wondering.
Justin and I've talked about it. It's like a missile on 18 wheels.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. It's a bomb. I mean, how did they get their CDLs when they're not being taught English and they just get in the truck and go?
And it's got to be frustrating. I mean, How do these drivers go out and build relationships, or even tell the shippers and receivers what they're picking up, what they're delivering, talking about a
Well,
BOL? How do they carry on these conversations? They can't do it.
They can't, because that's what I'm saying. I don't even see how they know what they're hauling, how are they reading that BOL, and how they're getting their next load. It's got to be someone doing it for them, I believe. I don't. It's got to be something. That's something that needs to be looked into.
the only thing I know, you can use those little apps on your phone, but to me, that's just
That
not very.
translation app, yeah.
Yeah, and that's just not professional.
No,
If
it's
you got
not.
to talk into the phone, then I got to read it, and then I talk into the phone and hand it back to the customer. I mean, as a customer, I think I would just be, put off by that. Like, nah, I need to find a
I
better.
wouldn't want him to carry my freight.
Exactly,
I mean,
exactly.
I really wouldn't.
You had said something a few minutes ago about how trucking has changed. Could you elaborate on elaborate? I'm got John's not talking today.
Elaborate.
Thank you, thank you. Could you speak
Someone
on?
can't speak English here on this
Yeah,
call.
Yeah, I think we got one on the phone with us already.
That's right. Well, could you speak on that a little bit of what you've seen change through the drivers, even through the trucking side? It don't have to be so much. I agree with you
Yes.
that the new drivers, they don't seem to understand the tradition of trucking and what trucking really is with their work ethics a lot of times. But if you could speak on that a little bit more, I'd be would like to hear that.
Yeah, it's kind of like now the newest trucks they coming out with. All the semis are now, most of them are automatic. I mean, because the new drivers come in, they have a restriction on their license because they can't drive a manual. Older drivers don't like automatic. I don't like automatic because I'm used to shifting gears. To each his own. That's what they like. It's okay. But I'm the type of driver, I don't want one. And you can't send a driver to school for 6 to 8 weeks and learn everything in that ample amount of time to drive a tractor trailer over the road. That you're not learning it. You got more classroom time than you do hands on. Meaning, I learned mine the hard way. We used to have to go name 100 parts on the CDL test of the tractor before you even get your CDL.
Oh
And if
wow! I
you
didn't.
didn't,
You hold
yeah,
on, hold on.
yeah,
Let's talk about that a little bit. You had to know 100 parts on the truck before
from
you could
truck
get
and
your
trailer.
CDL
Yes,
on
Wow.
truck trailer.
they would have you walk. Even if they say mirror, headlight, lug nut, you would have to literally name 100 parts on that tractor trailer at the end of it when you get your actually done your road test in order to pass.
I wonder
See,
when
Wow.
that went away.
I don't remember, but that's what we had to do. And you can't go to CDL school to 46 weeks and learn how to drive a truck. And
Yeah.
majority 90% of the time, once they get out of school, 90% of them cannot back up into a dock because the backing is the hardest part in the CDL.
Yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
have
That's
trouble backing. I don't have my CDL, but I've had a trailer on the back of my car a couple times on the back of my truck, and backing is an art.
It is.
Yes, it is. That's the hardest part of trucking, back. That's majority of your accident trying to back into a dock. And with the trucking business nowadays, what I was getting at is saying it has changed. The freight has changed. Like we were saying, you got we have all the foreigners driving trucks now. They coming in hauling the freight pennies on $1, and it's not like it used to be when we was getting it, Justin.
Hmm.
We get good loads, and now the loads they're getting, they might haul the load $200 or $300 cheaper than when we was getting it. So that's
Right.
kind of making it even harder for the average American to get a good decent load.
Justin and I have talked about it at length on a couple of our other shows. I mean, it's sad because you guys, especially the ones that work hard, there needs to be a scoring system. I'd like to get your opinion on this. There needs to be a scoring system where a driver earns almost like a credit score based on how long they've been with a certain company, the loads that they've done, comments, what score, PSP scores, safety scores, stuff like that. There needs to be a scoring system put together for drivers. So, Dwayne, let's just say you're a 98 out of 100, and then you're put up against a guy who's a 70 out of 100. He's not doing things the right way. He may not even be able to speak English. You're doing everything the right way. You have years and years of experience. You should be compensated a little bit more for the work that you put in and for as long as you've been on the road. I mean, how do you feel about that?
I agree with you totally. But as a trucking business, everyone would love that. But if you got John Doe coming in, can't speak that much English, and he's gonna haul a load for $1,800, and I was hauling it for $2,500, but the broker them decided, hey, look, we're gonna give this man a shot because he's gonna haul it cheaper. Cheaper freight is not good, and it's not guaranteed it's gonna make it there then.
Well, how many times do you get stuck with a load from a broker that was supposed to pick up 3 or 4 days ago? You arrive to the customer's all pissed off because you're quote late on the load, even though you're on time because you just got it. And it just starts things off the wrong way. If they just used you in the first place, they would have
We
solved a
would have
lot of
had
their
that.
headaches.
They would have saved a lot of headaches, and there wouldn't have been no altercation in between us. Because it's like this: once you book those loads, I get it. If I'm going to A to B and I see a load that's going to C, yes, I'm gonna go ahead and book C load, even though I got B load, but that ain't guaranteed I'm gonna make it to C load. So that's when the loads get started getting late. And now you got to put that load back out on the load board. Now you got that customer mad because you didn't pick that load up on time. And then whoever come and get that load from C, they're gonna chew you out. Well, I thought you was gonna be here at such and such. Ma'am, that wasn't me. I just got the load. But they don't believe it because that other broker done told me, hey, we'll have that load picked up for about 2 o'clock. Well, it didn't get picked up at 2 o'clock. But now they don't cut the rate on it because they're trying to get it move even faster because it didn't get picked up by John like it's supposed to have done. And it's not right.
Well, I'd like to get your opinion on something else that we were just speaking about. So we're in development of a way to protect good drivers and a way of having a broker set up a process to where let's say you call in to get a load and it's a good load, you say yes. We would have it to where you would go in, it'd take you about 15 minutes, 20 minutes to fill out a profile of every little item that you would need to show, like, your CDL, pictures of your truck, any type of paperwork that shows that's who you are, to identify that you are the person picking up to the person that's delivering it, to give security that we were just talking about, security to make sure they know your product's going to get there on time. Do you think that is something that would bother you as a driver? Because once you do it one time, that profile is built for you. So the next time a broker asks for that, you just go in and click a button and you send your profile directly to try to help the scamming and different things with these brokers have to deal with, which would hopefully end up putting more money back into drivers' pockets.
Yes, I can see that happening. I would recommend something like that happen because if that got set up and that kind of take shape, I would like to, even though once that load got delivered, I would like to where it would go back to that broker or to that agency. Hey, if this is Rush Trucking, you give him a 1 to 5 star on how he carried your product, and rate him, and that way the next carrier said, a broker said, hey, he's 4 star, 5 star, he's on time, and hoping that would make them go up on the rate of the freight, so that,
That's
hey,
right. You build a community, right? You build a
right,
community. There's going to be bad brokers out there that pay bad drivers that go for the cheapest rate. There's going to be cheap shippers out there that do the same thing, and they're going to struggle because of it. But if you build a solid community and you've got, drivers that can be individually scored, because also here's another thing too. You drive for a company, it's not fair to impact Dwayne based on what Bob and Charlie did. So if you're
right,
able to show them that, hey, Dwayne is highly rated with CNS Logistics, but Bob and Charlie may have messed up, but we're going to use Dwayne and Fred and Cindy and Samantha. We're going to use them all. We're going to these guys because they are 5 stars. Bob and Charlie are 3 stars. At least you're not impacted by that because so many times now all brokers have to go off of is what Highway says or another
right,
vetting company
right.
such as Carrier 411 says about that carrier, not about the individual driver. If we can put something together that protects Dwayne, that individual driver under CNS, I think everybody wins. Wouldn't you agree?
I totally agree with you. I agree with you.
Wanted to bring up something that's always a hot topic for us on our podcast all the time. What do you think about autonomous trucks and having them on the road and competing against, your kind of job?
Well, I don't see it's going to be too much of a threat because if you can find some quote good CDL drivers and reliable drivers, it wouldn't be as bad. But if we can get everybody, to work together, hold the trucking industry together, we won't have to worry about it.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, Dwayne. I think one of the things that we've talked about, recently is like the ability for trucks to stop on a dime, deal with things like black ice this time of year, also charging or filling up. There's going to need to be an infrastructure built to handle refueling these trucks, whether that be through an electronic charge or filling them up with diesel. They've talked about over in Europe, building these roads that charge as you charge the truck as they drive across them. We're nowhere near that here in the States. I mean, I live in Tampa. It's been, 5 years, and they've only developed, actually longer than that, almost 10 years now, and they've only expanded I-4, half of it from Daytona to Orlando, the other half from Orlando to Tampa. They're just now getting started on. And I moved here in 2017, and they had started working on it. So building that infrastructure takes time. And then what about flatbeds? What about tankers when you got to go unload?
Right.
You don't have the ability to handle that right now. It's not like you've got an actual
No,
robot driving that truck, right?
no, correct. I don't see them coming up with that solution no time soon because how it's going to get in back into a dock, how it's going to get unloaded. I mean, you still going to have somewhere to get the product, the items off the truck when it's going on. Hopefully, by that time everything take place, I hope I'll be out of a truck.
Yeah. I think it's coming,
Yeah.
but you still have, I mean, my wife has a vehicle now that won't drive, on the roads in town, but it will drive on the
Hmm.
expressway. But
Hmm.
it still runs into situations where it beeps, red at her and tells her, hey, you need to take control of the vehicle now. So, what happens when that happens on the road, like a situation that the AI or the robot is not equipped for? And
Yeah.
then what happens when that truck just stops? I mean, if there's a mechanical failure or a check engine light comes on and that truck just stops, then what? And especially if it's in the middle of the road, can you imagine what happens then?
It's going to be a problem.
So tell us a little bit about your company, Dwayne. Tell us about who you're running for now, what kind of freight you run, what kind of trailer you're pulling. Give us a little idea about who you're running for and why maybe some other drivers should consider running, for your company.
Yeah, it's a tanker company. I always love pulling tankers. Hazmat company. We based out of Bartow, Florida, and we got different terminals in Georgia, Arkansas. We mainly carry alum acid. And what we does with this product, we spray chicken houses with it. We kill all the bacteria with it,
Oh,
and
wow. Okay.
we use it at water treatment facilities. And it's a great company. It's if anybody like pull hazmat, but I think hazmat kind of run people off when we say tankers. Everybody think tankers, they think of a
It
gas truck.
scares yeah, it
Right.
scares even a lot of carriers off, not just drivers. A
Hmm.
lot of carriers won't pull it because they're nervous about it.
Correct, correct. It's all about how you carry yourself and treat the truck and trailer. Yes, it's hazmat, it's hazardous. You just got to take your time with it. That's the main thing.
Do you have like a website or something that you can shout out, or a phone number or something for the company?
Yes, it's CNS Logistics. It's out of Bartow, Florida. It's you can find them at cnslogistic.com. If you pull them up,
Awesome.
you mean it's like I said, it's a chemical company, and we run pretty much just anywhere. I mean, pretty much 48. I just one of the fortunate ones. I'm home daily.
Awesome. Where do you live, Dwayne?
I live in Meridian, Mississippi.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
You know,
So I want to ask you this. You got any advice for the new drivers that are just coming out of school or maybe a year or two into it and still trying to get their feet wet and go the right path? Like I said, I'm very proud of working with you and watching you. You actually taught me a lot about how a driver should operate, act as an owner operator and a company guy. What lessons could you give them, or something that they need to try to strive for?
Yes, I mean, if you're coming out going to truck driving school and want to drive a truck, just take your time, just listen to the instructors, and just make sure you're doing everything right. If you have a question, you're in doubt, ask. That is the key thing. Don't be afraid to ask anyone something about if you don't know. The dumbest question is the one that's not asked. I had to
That's right.
find that out
Well said.
the hard way,
Mhm.
and
That's it.
to them, to me, if they do that, I promise you, it'll go a long way. And if you see someone need help, just stop and ask them. And if you want to become an owner operator, again, like I said, just take your time, find your a company to lease on with, because even though you're an owner operator, you still have a boss. I mean, you're not getting your loads yourself because somebody's still gonna have to call you about a load. And the main thing is put God first, and everything else will fall in line.
Amen to that.
Amen. Very true.
Yeah,
And I think you bring up a good point. You are an owner operator. You are your own company, but you are working as a partnership with a dispatcher and a carrier. And that was one thing that I would say about mine and your relationship. You were very easy to work with, and you trusted me. You gave me the
yeah, I did.
opportunity to show what I could do, and I think that gets lost when an owner operator goes. They should just let the dispatcher have an opportunity to see if they can really do what he or she says they can do, and then go from there. And that was one thing that I can say for you, is you allowed me to get the loads, find what works, and then we tweaked it as we went. And then mine and your relationship went hand in hand on,
Right,
I knew what you were looking for, where you like to run, and it
correct.
was smooth transition. So I agree. I think that was a big thing that I think drivers should understand, that you're in a partnership. You're still
Exactly.
you're still your own boss, which is great. I'm all for being your own boss, but you can't do anything by yourself. Not in
No,
trucking.
sir. No, sir. You still have someone you have to answer to. It doesn't mean because you got your own truck and you're doing this. Well, if that broker don't want to give you that load, he can say, "Hey, that load got canceled." He can stick it back on somebody else. So you have to work together in this kind of stuff. I mean, if
You
me and
do.
you and I work well together. I find some loads sometime. I say, "Hey, Jay, look here. I seen this. Check on this." You
Oh
may be
yeah.
busy at times. I'd be like, "Okay, well, I check on it and just send it to you. You just get back with me." So if you can find someone that you can work well together under and with, that's the main thing.
Well, and one of our partners, Ready App, that's why they're building that type of system of trying to help drivers stay organized, try to get them verified to help them be ready for a great opportunity, no matter as a company driver or an owner op. So, you know, that driver first mentality, I think if we can spread it, can go a long way in the industry, just because there's not a lot of people on the driver's side.
It's not. It's not. Like I said, the older drivers, they're pretty much getting out of it because it's too much hassle with them trying to keep the CDLs up, the medical cards. It's just harder for the older guys just trying to keep it going, keep the trucking business going.
Well, Dewayne, I wanna thank you for setting the tone, coming on, being our first driver here on Drivers First. Your commitment to your company, to the industry, is something really I think a lot of drivers will look up to. We appreciate your advice and you taking the time again to come on the show.
And I appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, and I do. You know what I think of you, Dwayne. So I appreciate you taking an hour out of your busy day. You represent what this industry should be like, and for that, I appreciate that.
I thank you guys again for having me. Anytime.
Again, we want to thank our sponsors, Gray Cross and Ready App, graycross.org, ready-app.com. Ready App helps eliminate driver fatigue, and Gray Cross helps support families who have lost their loved ones. Please support our sponsors, subscribe, and like.